Top 5 violin string brands for beginners. If we haven't met, hi, I'm Megan. I'm a violinist and teacher. I've been playing the violin for over 25 years. I have my bachelor's and master's degrees in violin performance, and I'm Suzuki trained. If you're enjoying my videos, please just take a quick second to make sure you're subscribed to my channel. It's easy, it's free, it's one button, one click, and it really helps me out. And if you're looking for more structure and support along your violin journey, check out Learn Violin Online. Learn Violin Online is a proven path to help you accomplish your violin goals step by step. When you join, you unlock hundreds of hours of video tutorials, arranged in an order that takes you from your very first open string to advanced pieces. You'll also become a part of a supportive community of adult learners just like you. Plus, all members get unlimited feedback from me, so your questions are always answered and you always know exactly what to do next. Links in the description. It can be so overwhelming to choose a violin string as a beginner. There's so many options, and the charts and the video examples don't really tell you what's going to be the right fit for you. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing my top 5 recommendations for strings for beginners, as well as a couple that you definitely don't want to get. Before purchasing strings, there are 3 things that you need to decide. First, you need to decide if you want gut or synthetic strings. Second, you need to decide what kind of E string you want. And third, you need to decide the type of E string you need. Those sound similar, but they're different. So first, do you want gut or synthetic strings? The vast majority of players use synthetic strings. Gut strings are really only used for Baroque playing, and they also go out of tune way more often than synthetic strings. So unless you are a Baroque specialist primarily playing Baroque music, I definitely recommend going with synthetic. Although if you've never heard gut strings, definitely go give them a listen because they have a really unique sound. Second, you need to decide what kind of E string you want. So there are platinum and titanium E strings, as well as gold E strings. Titanium E strings are brilliant and powerful. They're ideal for brighter instruments or for those who want to brighten up their darker instrument. And if you're not sure what the difference is, I'm going to leave a video linked in the description that explains it. Titanium E strings are the best for projection. On the other hand, platinum E strings are more warm. They have a more complex sound, not as bright, but they are more prone to whistling. And we all know how annoying those E string whistles can be. I personally don't think one is better than the other. It kind of just depends on personal preference. I typically use a platinum E string because my violin is already pretty bright. I typically use brighter strings, so there's no reason for me to make it even brighter. Now there's also gold E strings, which I do not recommend. I've used gold E strings in the past, and in my experience, the gold rubs off very easily. So if you play and practice a lot, eventually it's gonna rub off and like half your string is gonna be gold and the half is gonna be silver, and it's just like, what are you paying for at that point? I've also personally found that gold E strings whistle way more than any other E string that I've ever had. So while they look cool, I do not recommend gold E strings. And third, what E string do you need? So the ends of E strings come in ball or loop end, and which one you use depends on your instrument. If you have single prong tuners, fine tuners, then you must use a loop end. If you have double pronged fine tuners, then you must use a ball end. On my violin, mine is double pronged. So there are 2 metal parts right here. So that means that I use a ball end. If you have double pronged fine tuners like me, you can also use a loop end. However, since there is the ending of it is less stable or steady, it's more likely to snap. So I definitely recommend using a ball end if you can. Now that you know what kind of strings you want, what kind of E string you want, and what kind of E string you need, now we can talk about the strings. So my first recommendation are dominants. Dominants are very, very good middle of the range string. They're not too bright, they're not too dark, so they can really work on any instrument. They're responsive, reliable, they last a long time, and they are actually used by many soloists. Hilary Hahn, Itzhak Perlman, Gil Shaham, Midori, and Zuckerman all use dominant strings, so they can't be half bad. What I found too is a lot of student violins actually already come with dominant strings. I think this is slowly changing because there are cheaper strings out there, but when I was a kid, every violin had dominants on it. So they've been around for a while. A set of dominant strings will run you about $85. I'll of course leave all of these recommendations down in the description. The second string set I recommend are Parastro tonicas. Parastro tonicas are very similar to dominant in that they are very middle of the range string. They can work well on brighter and darker instruments. They have a very clear sound, they're responsive, they're easy to play on, and extra little bonus, they are a little bit cheaper. If a set of dominants is $85, Parastro tonicas will run you about $50 per set. So I think these are a great alternative to dominants and will still get you a very similar sound. The third set I recommend are Ava Parazzis. I actually used these for several years, and they're known for their intense and powerful sound. These strings are definitely warmer and darker, and like I mentioned, my instrument is more bright, so that's why I ultimately ended up switching. But they're great strings. I know they have a new line out, I believe the Ava Parazzi Gold. I have not tried those. If you have, let me know what you think about them. I've heard great things. But if you want a string that is warmer, darker, and maybe a little bit more powerful than dominants, Ava Parazzis are the way to go. A set of Ava Parazzis will run you about $110, so a little bit more expensive than dominants. The fourth set of strings I recommend are Peter Infeld Pi strings. These strings have been my go-to for over 10 years now. They're very bright, very clear. I absolutely love how much I can hear them ring, and they're super easy to play on. They are slightly more expensive than Ava Parazzis. They're $120 for a set, around there. But these are the strings I would recommend if you have a more bright instrument. So if you have a darker instrument, do Avas. If you have a brighter, do Pi strings. They're my go-to. You can't go wrong, trust me. And the fifth string I recommend is Varchal strings. So these are actually the strings that I am currently using. They are Varchal's the B strings. These were actually specifically made for soloists, and they are by far the loudest set of strings that I have ever played on. They are a little bit on the more warm and rich side, so not as bright, but they're still extremely powerful, easy to play on, they last a long time, and I'm really enjoying them. Another set of Varchals that I am going to try next is their amber strings. Like I said, I haven't tried them, but when I change my strings, those are the next ones I'm going to use. I already have them. Amber strings, I think, are supposed to be even warmer and richer, so it'll be interesting to see how they sound on my violin. The amber strings are about $87 per set, and then the B strings I think were $120, somewhere around there. But last I checked, if you went on Varchal's website and you're a first-time customer, they will give you 50% off of your first string set. A few other brands that I have heard really great things about but never personally tried myself are the Larson Canone strings and Avogados. So those are my top 5 string brands, and really at the end of the day, it's personal preference. Of course, you want to purchase strings that are catered to your instrument and your tone, right? So warm versus bright. And it never hurts to try out a new brand that you've never tried before. It's hard to go wrong. However, the one string set to absolutely avoid is the D'Addario Prelude strings. I know a lot of students get these because they are extremely cheap. They're about $22 for a set. It's a lot cheaper than any of the other string sets I've mentioned. But have you ever heard the phrase, you get what you pay for? Yeah. I found these strings can be hard to stay in tune. They break easily, and they just don't have the best sound. If you're on a budget, the way to go is the Fiddlerman set. It's only $10 more, and it's much better quality. So there you have it. Those are the top 5 string sets in my opinion. And leave a comment and let me know, what are your favorite string sets? Which ones do you hate? Thank you so much for watching, and please make sure to subscribe before you go.